Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are. I am JaiDei, and I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Lamar. And today on Knowing and Growing, we will be talking about forgiveness does not equal readmission. So I had a client the other day, and she was saying that the thing that was getting in the way of her forgiving a particular individual and forgiving herself as well, more so about forgiving herself, is that she thought it meant that she would now need to be friends with this person again, especially when they showed up and said, well, you said you forgave me. So now why won't you allow me back into your life? Or why don't you want to be my friend? Or why don't you want to hang out with me? And I said, that's a very interesting concept that you believe when you forgive that it automatically means that the person gets to come back into your life. And I was like, no, it does not equal readmission. It really means that you have allowed yourself to get back into life, into the game of life, and for you to move forward. But you get to choose at all times who you want to interact with, who you want to play with, who you want to eat with, and who you want to sleep with. What do you think about that, Dr. Lamar?
I love it. I love how you framed it, but I like to say forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean that you have to be back in partnership with that person. And it's so important when we understand that, because people don't realize that you cannot heal without forgiveness. And I know it's like, I shouldn't have to, and you don't have to forgive. Forgiving is not mandatory. It's not mandatory, but it is necessary. And it's really about having a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance towards another person, even if they've wronged you. And it's a process to that. And it's not always an easy process, because it could be something that is like the most egregious thing that could happen, but you're not forgiving them from their behavior because they could be wrong, but you're forgiving your ability to stay connected to that bitterness and that resentment and that vengeance, which causes disease in the body, which is a dis-ease within your body when we don't forgive or when we don't heal. Yeah. So that's what I believe.
Absolutely. One of the things that I recognize with some people is that's how they maintain their boundary with that person, is by not forgiving that person for the act that they've committed toward them, how they've been wrong. So now I need to maintain this hurt. I need to maintain this bitterness. But what ends up happening is that it's only harming oneself. But that's how they know that they can keep that person at arm's length. If that pain lives within them and is present, then they know that they won't let or readmit that person back into their life. But you're absolutely right. That that bitterness, that anger is really energy that's flowing, coursing throughout our body. It's kind of like if you don't go to the dentist, that plaque builds up on your teeth and it begins to impact the body because the plaque is not good. So it's getting into your bloodstream, and then it will eventually impact your heart.
Right.
Well, the same thing with that negative energy that you're walking around with. It creates diseases within the body. So it's important for us to forgive. But when someone is thinking, if I forgive this person, then I won't let them back in my life. What's happening is they're stuck and that person has moved on. A lot of times people have moved on and they have forgotten what has happened. They've gone on with their life and you're the one that's stuck in that space of hurt and pain and disappointment and anger and bitterness. So what do you think about that? The fact that people don't move on and they're stuck in a place and time, and they can relive, talk about that experience just like it just happened, as fresh for them.
You know, it's so funny that you say that. I am trauma trained, and one of the things that I know about trauma is when a person can tell you a story about trauma and they can give you A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that's an indication that it was a traumatic experience that they've already processed. When a person have experienced trauma, their story when it's active, right? When it's immediate, they hadn't really connected the dots, and so it's kind of like, and then I. But when a person can hold on to something because there's like, and she did this and did it, and they can tell the story, it's an indication that was a trauma from the past. They hold on to it because it serves them a purpose to be able to say, you know what, that is going to be my shield to protect myself. But what they don't realize is they're creating a shield around them, but it's keeping them in a place that can create ailment in their body and illness, and like we mentioned earlier, disease. But to go a little further, because I know we talk about this healing, and people always like to say I'm healed, ED, instead of I'm healing. And I personally don't believe that a person can ever be 100% healed. I just don't. I think because we have so many different parts of life, just like I don't believe a person can ever be 100% secure attachment. I think that is the purpose of different people coming into our lives. But I think I've kind of gotten off.
Yeah, that's another topic for another day.
Right.
Is it possible to be emotionally healed? Because I believe that it is possible. But let's save that topic for another day. I like something else that you said, that the forgiveness, holding on to the whatever the event is, the hurt, the pain, is serving that individual. Mm-hmm. And you're right. One of the ways that it serves someone is it helps them maintain a boundary. Another way that it serves people to not forgive is that that's how they punish the other person. So now I can justify not being in community with you or connected to you. Let's say it's your spouse or your children or even your family. So now I can justify punishing you versus realizing that I've been hurt. This does not serve me, but it is serving me, but it's not a good way of being served. It's not a good way of getting one's needs met. So if I've been hurt by you, I won't even let you know that you hurt me. So now I'm holding on to it. And sometimes people go, they know what they did, but what if they didn't know? And so we sometimes refuse to even engage with the person to have a conversation with them so that they can clear it up. Because now, and we talked about this in another podcast, sometimes this is how we get our needs met, by playing the victim. Like, no one loves me. And then we talk about this with other people so that they can then rally around us and support us. But go ahead.
I'm sorry. Because as you're saying that, it was like so many different things that are kind of popping up. But you know what? Sometimes when people violate an individual, because I think we miss an opportunity to honor people when they've been violated, right? Because you just said sometimes people play the victim. Sometimes people are the victim, and that should be acknowledged. But the thing is, when do you go from victim to victor, right? If you just sit in this space of you were violated, somebody did something to you, they hurt you, you did not like it. When do you begin to say, you know what, this really isn't about this person, but this is really about me? And then begin to do the work that you need to do to disconnect yourself and then to do the work. Because what I know about healing is you don't have to be 100% healed, which we'll have a topic about that, in order to improve the quality of your life and or a relationship. And because healing doesn't mean reconciliation, you can begin to disconnect that negative relationship that you had with that person, see them for who they are, and then be able to move forward. But as long as you're staying in this place of I'm going to punish them, I'm going to hurt them, that means you got to stick around to hurt them or to punish them. That means you are exposing yourself over and over and over to this person. And sometimes people do know when they violated. Sometimes they don't know. But it doesn't matter what they know. It really matters what you know as the victim and how you want to move forward. I want to say something. I'm going to turn the mic back over to you. You know what I realize when I see couples? When I see couples or people who are constantly trying to prove themselves to be right and they're constantly trying to hurt others, that's an indication that they don't have resolve within themselves. Because when you done with something, you done with it. And it don't matter what the other person say. You like, oh, okay, fine. All right. But when you're not done and there's no resolve, you're constantly being, and I don't want to say tit for tat, but you're constantly trying to prove yourself or prove that you are not whatever happened in the process of being victimized or betrayed.
You made some really great points. I want to address two. I want to make a statement first. One of the things that I remind people of is that no one is getting out of this life without being hurt. No one.
Ooh, ooh.
No one. Um, Pain and hurt is a part of the process, just like the
Mhm.
sun and the rain. You need the rain. If you don't have the rain, then you're living in the desert. And even in the desert, it does occasionally rain. It may do it once a year or
Yeah.
once every 6 months. So the other thing that I wanted to say when you talked about the people who have hurt us, sometimes in order for us to heal, people have to show up to
Mhm.
trigger, meaning touch that pain, trigger that pain, that discomfort, that dis-ease within us so that we can heal it. Because if I'm in a safe spot, it's easy to be transformed and all spiritual and Holy Ghost filled and all those words, right? When I'm by myself, the testament is who am I when I'm in community with people.
Ooh.
That's when the evidence spills out that says to me, oh, there's some stuff that you need to work on. Oh, you mad now? Why are you mad? Oh, I'm getting triggered now from something that happened to me. I was cheated on, or I was lied to, or I was taken advantage of. That's that part where the forgiveness needs to show up. So
Mm.
sometimes we need to thank these people for showing up in our lives and releasing us, because that's what it is. When you forgive someone, which is what you're talking about, you are now released. You are freed from whatever it is that has held you captive. In
Mhm.
other words, one of my stories, I was abandoned. That was a story that I made up. My mom and my dad, they separated. They were married. They separated when I was almost 2. And my story was I was abandoned. I had to heal that. And until I healed it, my story was people will leave you, any in my romantic relationships. And what I began to recognize, oh, I need to work on that. Who do I need to forgive? First, I had to work on forgiving myself for even picking that up. But sometimes that's what happens when you're a child and you don't have enough life experience.
Right.
Anyway, I done said a lot. So, what do you think about some of the stuff that I done dropped down and onto this podcast right now?
I love it. It's really about releasing yourself. That's easier said than done. And I do a lot of work with individuals around healing. And I don't think that healing is like this linear thing that happens, right? Something happens, you decide this, you forgive, you what. I don't think it happens like that. I think it's cyclical, right? I think you kind of go around, and there's these stages where you forgive, you do the work, you're triggered, you do the work, you do more work, and it's this cycle, right? So I don't, and that's why I was saying I don't think that a person can be 100% healed, because what does that even look like? Because that means that, anyways, we're going to talk about that on another topic. But the point that I'm making is I think what you are sharing, it makes a lot of sense. I think when we've experienced a betrayal and it triggers some childhood unresolved stuff, it's a little bit more hurtful and a little bit more serious. But I think it goes back to, what is it that I can do to release myself from this pain? What is it that I can do? Because sometimes we want people to be punished, like you said earlier, when the truth is we are not the person who will be the one to punish that person. But it's important for us to understand that you will reap what you sow, or you may not see that person, but you will, it'll be an experience, or they will have an experience of that. So all of that information was really, really good. So yeah, those are just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I like what you said when you say you will reap what you sow, because it's true that when we are wanting to punish someone because they've done us wrong, if we are around when they get theirs, the victory, or it's not sweet, it's bittersweet, because what has happened is we begin to realize that we have stayed trapped, and we sometimes have wasted years of missed opportunities, of living a life full of joy and happiness and adventure, because I believe that's what life is meant to be. Well, this has been a wonderful topic. I really have enjoyed having this conversation with you in this moment of knowing and growing. Thank you for joining us. And remember to like, share, and comment. And also let us know what topics, or let me know what topics you would like to talk about. And if you would like to be a guest on our show as well. And for now, we are JaiDei Jackson
Natasha Lamar.
and see you later.
Bye.